Part 1. The Cup That Didn't Spill. Why didn't the cup spill? The question hung in the air like a secret. Hello, dear learners. Welcome back. If you enjoy heartfelt stories that improve your English, please subscribe now. This is Learn English Through Story. Watch until the end to see what happens. On a wet morning in the old hill town, Arv walked down the steep lane with a tray of tea for his family. The stones were slick, the rain was teasing the ground with cold silver needles, and yet his cup stayed full, steady, calm. His sister Mina watched from the doorway, surprised that not a single drop trembled over the edge. "How do you do that?" she asked. Arv smiled but said nothing. The question followed him under his umbrella, past the temple bell, and into the day that would test every thread of his patience. Arv worked at a small clinic, a narrow building that smelled of eucalyptus and hope. He was not a doctor, not a nurse. He was the person who held hands, found blankets, and brought water. People joked that he was a quiet pillar, the one everyone leaned on without noticing. He accepted the words like he accepted the weather, sun when it came, clouds when they gathered, and silence when neither arrived. That morning, happiness and sorrow came together like two strangers forced to share a seat. A newborn cried in the maternity room, the sound bright as a temple cymbal. In the next ward, an elderly man coughed into a faded scarf while his daughter tried to hide her fear. The clinic filled with mixed music, laughter, prayer, and the low hum of worry. Arv moved through it with gentle steps, holding the tray of tea for the nurses, the smile for the young father, the shoulder for the tired daughter. Then the storm sharpened. A bus slid on the wet highway and metal kissed metal. Phones lit up with the same message. Accident. Within minutes, the clinic doors opened to a rush of raincoats and stretcher wheels. Voices overlapped. Somewhere a child whimpered. A man shouted for his brother. A woman clutched her handbag like it contained her whole history. The air was thick with panic, as if the clouds had slipped inside and refused to leave. Arv felt the pressure like a hand around his ribs. For a second, his chest wanted to rise too fast, like a drum beaten with angry sticks. But he remembered the cup that didn't spill. The secret was not magic. It was attention. Hold the center. Breathe like a calm river. He placed one hand on the admissions desk, as if anchoring himself to the earth, and counted the beats of his breath. For in 6 out, the noise blurred. The fear softened at the edges. When his next breath came, he stepped forward. "Sir, please sit. Your brother is being examined." "Ma'am, take this blanket. The child is safe." "Doctor, oxygen has arrived." Simple words, steady tone. He walked from bed to bed like a lantern carried through fog. People followed the light, not the storm. And strangely, the storm began to obey the room's slow rhythm. The clinic, once a chorus of panic, learned a new song, slower, lower, kinder. Outside, thunder rolled across the hills. Inside, a nurse whispered, "How do you stay so calm?" Arv looked at the steam curling from a fresh cup of tea and finally answered, "I don't stop the rain. I hold the cup." Part 2. The storm inside the room. The rain had not stopped. It beat against the windows of the clinic as if trying to enter, as if the storm outside wanted to join the storm inside. Dear learner, if this story touches you, remember to subscribe. This is Learn English Through Story. Watch until the end, because the lesson hidden here may stay with you for life. The injured from the bus crash filled the small building. Nurses rushed with bandages. Doctors shouted for instruments, and the smell of blood mixed with the sharp sting of disinfectant. It was chaos. Yet amid the noise, Arv walked slowly, like a man moving through a garden. His calmness did not come from ignorance. He saw everything. The broken arm of a boy, the deep cut on a woman's forehead, the trembling hands of a father who feared he might lose his son. But still, Arv's face was steady, his voice quiet, his steps measured. Some people whispered, "How can he stay calm when all this is happening?" Others thought he was cold, untouched by pain. But those who looked carefully saw the truth. Arv's calmness was not distance. It was strength. He carried peace inside him, and that peace spread to others. In one corner, a young man sat on the floor, clutching his leg, his breath coming fast. "It hurts. I can't take it," he cried. Arv knelt beside him. placed a firm hand on his shoulder, and said, "Breathe with me. In, out, slowly. Pain is loud, but your breath is stronger." The man followed, and little by little, his sobs turned into shaky sighs. The doctor arrived just then, able to treat him properly. Another woman refused to leave her brother's side. She shouted at the nurses, "Don't touch him, you'll make it worse." Her fear was sharp, almost violent. Arv approached, offering her a blanket. "Sit," he said gently. "You'll help him more with strength than with panic." She looked into his calm eyes, and something in her heart softened. She sat, holding the blanket, and the doctors worked in peace. Outside, thunder shook the sky. Inside, the clinic was still trembling with fear, but wherever Arv walked, fear seemed to loosen its grip. Late into the night, when the last patient had been settled and the hallways had grown quieter, Arv sat alone on a bench. His body was tired, his eyes heavy, but his mind remained clear. He remembered his grandmother's words. When the wind is wild, the mountain does not move. Be the mountain. He realized then that happiness and sorrow would always visit like the changing weather. No man could stop the rain or command the sun. But one thing could remain steady: the heart that chose patience, the mind that chose peace. Arv leaned back, closed his eyes, and smiled faintly. The storm outside would pass. The storm inside would always return. But he had learned the art of holding the cup without spilling. The morning after the storm, the town looked wounded. Fallen branches lay across the streets, and puddles reflected the pale gray sky. Yet inside the clinic, life moved forward. Patients slept, nurses moved quietly, and for a moment, silence returned. Arv walked home with slow steps, the world dam around him. Children played in the muddy lanes, chasing each other barefoot. One of them slipped, fell, and burst into laughter. The sound surprised Arv. Just hours earlier, people had been crying in pain, and now here was joy, fresh and free. Happiness and sorrow, two faces of the same world. At his doorstep, his sister Mina waited. "You didn't sleep at all, did you?" she asked. Arv shook his head. She frowned. "How do you carry so much and still stay calm? Don't you ever feel like shouting? Don't you feel the weight?" He paused. "I do feel it," he admitted softly. "But calmness doesn't mean I have no storm. It means I don't let the storm drown me." That evening, as the lamps lit the narrow lanes, Arv went to the riverbank. The river was swollen from the rain, moving fast, crashing against rocks, wild and restless. Yet in the middle of the river, a deeper current moved slowly, steady as time. Arv watched it and thought, this is what the heart must learn, to flow without rushing, even when the surface is wild. An old man sat near him, feeding crumbs to birds. He noticed Arv's gaze and said, "The river teaches us. If you only look at the surface, you think it is restless. But look deeper, and you will see the calm strength underneath." Arv listened, his mind echoing the truth. Life would always give him noise, joy and sorrow, gain and loss, storms and sunshine. But beneath it all, there could be a steady current if he chose patience. When he returned home, Mina was waiting with a simple dinner. She looked at him, curious. "What did you find by the river?" Arv smiled. "The lesson is simple. The river rushes on top, but it is calm underneath. We must learn to live like that." That night, Arv finally slept. His body rested, his mind quiet. Outside, the world was still uncertain, still full of surprises. But inside him, a new strength had settled. Because real strength was not shouting at sorrow or clinging to happiness. Real strength was staying steady, like the river that does not rush. Part 4, the market of noise. The next morning was bright, the rain gone, but the streets were alive with noise. Vendors shouted prices. Children ran between stalls, and carts rattled over uneven stones. Arv entered the marketplace to buy supplies for the clinic, bandages, soap, and tea for the nurses. If you feel inspired by this journey, don't forget to subscribe to learn English through story. Watch until the end, because today's part hides a quiet but powerful truth. The market was chaos. Everyone was in a hurry, each voice louder than the other. Arv walked slowly, holding his list, but soon a man bumped into him. spilling vegetables across the ground. The man shouted angrily, "Can't you see where you're going?" Others stared, waiting for Arv to shout back. But he bent down, picked up the vegetables, and returned them with a calm smile. "The road is crowded," Arv said gently. "It's easy to collide." The man blinked, confused by the absence of anger. His voice softened. "Yes, the road is crowded." He walked away, quieter than before. Mina, who had joined Arv that day, whispered, "Why didn't you argue?" He was rude. Arv replied, "If I argue, I add more noise to the market. But if I stay calm, the noise loses its power." They moved through the market. At a spice stall, a woman argued fiercely with the seller over the price of turmeric. At a cloth shop, two men shouted about who came first. Mina looked around and sighed. Why is everyone so restless? Why do they shout at every little thing? Arv answered, "Because they believe peace depends on others. If someone cheats, they lose peace. If someone shouts, they lose peace. But real peace does not depend on the market. It depends on the mind." On their way home, Mina carried the words like a secret treasure. She realized her brother was not only calming patients, he was living with a deeper wisdom. That night, she asked him one last question before sleep. But what if sorrow becomes too heavy? What if happiness becomes too bright? Can peace still stay? Arv looked at the lamp's flame flickering gently. Peace is not the absence of sorrow or joy. Peace is the balance between them, like the flame, always moving, always steady. Outside, the marketplace was silent now. Shops closed, carts covered. But inside their small home, Mina felt her brother's words glowing brighter than the lamp itself, because she had learned what the market could not teach. Calmness is not weakness. It is strength, quiet and unshakable. Part 5, The Teacher Without a Book. The following week, the town school invited Arv to speak. The headmaster had seen how he calmed chaos in the clinic and believed the children could learn from him. Arv hesitated at first. He was not a teacher, not a man of speeches. But the headmaster insisted. "They don't need a book today. They need your peace." The classroom was restless. Children whispered, giggled, and tapped their desks with impatient fingers. Arv stood quietly at the front, saying nothing. His silence was strange. It made the children curious. One by one, the whispers faded, and the room grew still. When the silence was deep enough, Arv held up a glass filled to the brim with water. The children leaned forward, puzzled. He began to walk slowly between the rows of desks, careful not to spill a drop. Finally, he stopped and asked, "What did you see?" One boy raised his hand. "You were careful." A girl added, "You didn't look at us, only at the glass." Another child said, "It was full, but it didn't spill." Arv smiled. "Yes, when my eyes stayed on the glass, nothing distracted me. I didn't hear your whispers. I didn't feel the noise. My only task was to protect this water." The children listened, eyes wide. Arv placed the glass on the teacher's desk. Life is like this glass. It is always full of joy, sorrow, hope, and fear. If you focus on every sound around you, you will spill your peace. But if you keep your mind steady, like this glass, you will not lose even a drop. Silence filled the room again, but this time it was not curiosity, it was understanding. Even the restless boy at the back sat quietly, holding the lesson inside him. The headmaster, watching from the doorway, whispered, "You've taught more in 10 minutes than I could in 10 years. That evening, Mina teased her brother. "So now you're a teacher too?" Arv chuckled. "No, I am only a reminder. The book of peace is already inside everyone. Sometimes it just needs to be opened." The stars lit the night sky. Children's laughter echoed faintly from the schoolyard, and Arv felt content. He had not given them knowledge from books, but a seed of wisdom that could grow for a lifetime. For calmness, he realized, was not just for the sick in the clinic, or for himself in silence. It was a gift to be shared, a fire to be passed from heart to heart. Part 6, The Trial of Loss. One evening, just as the sun dipped behind the hills, a messenger came running to Arv's home. His face was pale, his breath short. "Come quickly," he said. "It's your friend Dev. He has collapsed." Arv rushed to the clinic, his heart pounding though his steps remained steady. Deb, his closest friend since childhood, the one who had shared school benches, riverside swims, and secret dreams under the stars. Now Dev lay on a hospital bed, his body weak, his breathing shallow. The doctors whispered the word, heart failure. Mina clutched Arv's arm. Do something. You always help others. Save him. Her voice cracked with desperation. Arv held her hand gently. I cannot fight death, but I can hold peace while we face it. His words were calm, but his chest burned with sorrow. Through the long night, Arv stayed by Dev's side. He spoke softly, telling stories of their childhood. How they once stole mangoes from the orchard, how they built paper boats in monsoon, how Dev once saved Arv from drowning. Dev's lips curved faintly at the memories, though his eyes stayed heavy. Near dawn, Dev opened his eyes fully for a brief moment. You are calm, he whispered. Always calm. Teach them all. Then his breath slowed, softened, and finally disappeared into silence. The room seemed to stop. Mina wept into her scarf. Nurses bowed their heads, and the air grew unbearably heavy. Arv sat motionless, tears glistening but unshed. Inside, waves of grief crashed, threatening to pull him under. But he remembered the river, the glass of water, the flame of the lamp. He breathed deeply, one long breath, then another, until his sorrow softened into quiet strength. When Mina finally lifted her head, she asked in disbelief, How can you sit so still? Don't you feel broken? Arv placed his hand over his heart. I do feel broken, but calmness is not the absence of pain. It is a choice not to let pain destroy the soul. At Dev's funeral, the villagers watched Arv carry the fire for the last rites. His steps were steady, his face solemn yet peaceful. People whispered among themselves, He has lost his dearest friend, yet he does not crumble. What secret strength lives in him? That night, alone at the riverbank, Arv finally allowed the tears to fall. They dropped silently into the water, joining the current. As the river carried them away, he whispered, Happiness is gone, sorrow has come, but I will remain calm. Because Dev's lesson lives in me now. Peace must be stronger than loss. Part 7. The Whisper of the Hills. Weeks passed after Dev's death, and the town slowly returned to its rhythm. Children played again, shops reopened, and laughter returned to doorsteps. But inside Arv, silence had grown deeper. It was not emptiness. It was a silence that listened. One evening, Arv climbed the hills beyond the village. The path was steep, stones loose beneath his feet, but his steps were steady. He reached a high ridge where the wind was strong and the valley spread wide below him. Sitting on a rock, he closed his eyes and let the wind wash over him. At first, the wind howled like sorrow, carrying echoes of Dev's laughter that would never return. Then it softened, almost like a voice. Life changes. Happiness comes, sorrow comes. But the mountain does not bow to the wind. Arv opened his eyes. The mountain before him stood massive, its peak hidden in clouds, unshaken by the stormy air. He realized this was the answer he had always lived but never named. Strength was not about controlling joy or sorrow. Strength was about standing firm, like the mountain, no matter what weather came. As he sat, a shepherd passed by, guiding his goats. He stopped and said, You sit like a sage, young man. What do you see? Arv pointed at the mountain. I see peace that does not move when storms come. The shepherd smiled. Yes, that's why our ancestors prayed to the mountains. They remind us life changes, but calmness is eternal. That night, when Arv returned home, Mina noticed a new glow in his face. What happened on the hills? She asked. Arv replied, The mountain spoke without words. It told me that storms will always come, but calmness is not about stopping them. It is about not being moved by them. Mina listened carefully, and for the first time, she understood. Her brother's calm was not a trick or a secret method. It was a way of being, rooted as deeply as the mountain roots. The next morning, when she faced small troubles, a broken clay pot, a delayed errand, she did not complain. Instead, she breathed and remembered the mountain, and she smiled, realizing Arv's strength was slowly becoming her own. Part 8. The Unshaken Heart. The seasons changed. The rain softened into autumn, and golden leaves drifted to the lanes of town. People still came to Ariv, patients, neighbors, strangers, each carrying their own burdens of joy and sorrow. And each time, they found in him a mirror of calmness. One evening, the village elders invited Ariv to the temple courtyard. Lamps glowed along the stone steps, and the fragrance of incense curled into the cool air. The oldest elder spoke. Ariv, people have watched you through storms and loss. You have shown us that calmness is real strength. Teach us, what is your secret? Ariv stood quietly before them. His voice was gentle but clear. Happiness and sorrow are like visitors. They come, they stay, they leave. But the heart that chases after them will always be restless. The real strength is to remain calm, like the mountain that does not bow to the wind, like the river that flows steady beneath the surface, like the flame that dances yet never dies. The crowd listened in silence. Even the children, who usually fidgeted, sat still as if his words were seeds falling into their hearts. Mina, standing nearby, felt tears rise, not of sorrow, but of understanding. She realized her brother was no longer only her family. He had become a quiet guide for the whole village. That night, after the gathering, Ariv returned to the riverbank. He sat alone, watching the moon ripple on the water. He whispered, as if speaking to Dev, to Mina, to every soul who carried storms inside them. Happiness will come, sorrow will come, but I will remain calm, because peace is not given by the world. Peace is chosen here in the heart. The river moved on. The stars glowed above. And in the stillness of that moment, Ariv knew the truth at last. Storms could never steal the strength of an unshaken heart. Dear learner, thank you for walking through all 8 parts of this story. Remember, peace is not the absence of storms, but the calm that stays within you no matter what comes. If this story touched you, please like, share, and subscribe. And now, one question for you. When life brings you both joy and sorrow, how do you remind yourself to stay calm?